I like to do my finishing on the lathe. I find that I can turn it slow enough that it won't throw the finish, and fast enough that it keeps the dust off. I am going to put the final coat of finish on the bowl that I have here. I have insets in the bottoms of my bowls for the chuck. I mark the bottom of the bowl so that I can set the chuck up in the same spot each time. I spin the bowl slowly just to make sure it is on properly. First of all, I am going to buff it with 4-0 steel wool, and we'll be doing this at about this speed. I lightly buff the bowl outside and in. On some pieces, I will buff the bowl in both directions, with the bowl turning towards me on the first pass and away from me on the second pass. I do this with porous woods such as black walnut. When buffing, sanding, or turning, I wear ear protection and a positive airflow mask with full face protection. When I am finished buffing, I blow the surface off with compressed air. I slow the lathe down to its slowest speed. Now I turn off the lathe and use the compressed air to carefully blow away any remaining dust from the surface. I always slow the lathe down to its slowest speed at the completion of any segment of the turning process. This ensures that I am not surprised by a high speed at a future step. On some pieces, this is not enough to remove all the dust, and I use a tack cloth to complete the process. This is the slowest speed that I use, but I have found that with some pieces I like to finish at this speed, which is just a little bit faster than the slowest speed. For finishing, I wear disposable gloves which I get from Lee Valley. The finish that I use is salad bowl finish from General Finishes of Troy, Wisconsin. All my suppliers are listed on the links button on the studio drop-down menu on my website, which is included in the description of this video. I drape a plastic garbage bag over my lathe bed so that I won't spill any finish on it. I use a sponge brush to apply the finish. I also use a folded cloth to wipe back the finish. When I am doing a final coat, I like to have the brush and the wiping cloth charged with finish prior to the application. To do this, I make the piece that is to get the final coat the second piece to be finished. I find that I get a more even coat with no holidays or drier spots. I start about here in the bowl and work towards the center. I do this so that I will not have a buildup of finish in the center. Then I work my way back past the starting point and up towards the rim. I don't take my brush all the way to the rim, but stop short about 1 to 1.5 inches from the rim. This is the rag that I use. It is a little square of t-shirt material that is folded up so that there are no bumps in it. I buy them as remnants from Lee Valley. Again, I start about here and work my way towards the center. As I approach the center, I lighten up until the cloth is just touching the surface. Where I didn't want to get too much finish in the center with the brush, now the opposite is true, as I don't want to remove too much finish from the center. I then slowly make my way away from the center and towards the rim. If you look closely at the video, you can see a little wave of finish that I am pushing ahead of the cloth. You can see a moving line on the bowl above my hand. This excess finish will be used up when it hits the dry area near the rim that was left at the brushing stage. With the rag well charged, I very lightly touch the rim to coat it and do a light pass on the inside at the top to pick up any excess that might be there. I then move to finishing the outside of the bowl. I add less finish than was used on the inside. I touch the brush down at about the halfway point on the bowl, and then I move toward the bottom. I make sure, by looking at the reflection in the light, that I have a uniform coverage. Toward the top, I leave about 1 to 1.5 inches dry for the same reason as on the inside. I come back with the cloth and hit about the center of the wet area. The cloth really picks up a lot of finish when I do this. I take the cloth right to the bottom of the piece and get a good coating on the bottom half. Then I move towards the rim. The cloth is recharged when it hits the wet spot in the center, and it carries this finish to cover the dry area towards the rim. This way I am not pushing too much finish right up to the top of the bowl. I touch the rim lightly to eliminate any residue that may have accumulated on the top edge after this pass. I let this piece spin for a few minutes to let it tack up a little. While this is happening, I clean up and store my finishing materials.